It's pretty obvious to everybody that's been participating in protests and in demonstrations over the past month that the same old forces, the Black Lives Matter Incorporated, and a variety of other old school reactionary forces, particularly Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, those sorts of people, are in the process of co opting the People's Rebellion. Now, we've seen this before. Um, those who fail to study the past are doomed to repeat it. History repeats itself, first as tragedy, secondly as farce. So, it's the goal of every revolutionary, every new African liberationist, every Marxist-Leninist-Maoist, what have you, to keep their eyes open and their ears open and struggle against this attempt to co opt and destroy the people's movement. So I'm going to read Malcolm X's piece on the March on Washington that he wrote in 1964. Not long ago, the black man in America was fed another dose of another form of the weakening, lulling, and diluting effects of so called integration. It was that farce in Washington, I call it. The idea of a mass of blacks marching on Washington was originally the brainchild of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, A. Philip Randolph. For 20 or more years, the March on Washington idea had floated around among Negroes. And spontaneously, subtly now, that idea caught on. Overall rural Southern Negroes, small town Negroes, Northern ghetto Negroes, even thousands of previously Uncle Tom Negroes began talking March. Not nothing since Joe Louis had so coalesced the masses of Negroes. Groups of Negroes were talking of getting to Washington any way they could, in rickety old cars, on buses, hitchhiking, walking even, if they had to. They envisioned thousands of black brothers converging together upon Washington to lie down in the streets, on airport runways, on government lawns, demanding of the Congress and the White House some concrete civil rights action. This was a national bitterness, militant, unorganized, and leaderless. Predominantly, it was young Negroes, defiant of whatever might be the consequences, sick and tired of the black man's neck under the white man's heel. The white man had plenty of good reason for nervous worry. The right spark, some unpredictable emotional chemistry, could set off a black uprising. The government knew that thousands of milling, angry blacks could not only completely disrupt Washington, but they could erupt in Washington. The White House speedily invited in the major civil rights Negro leaders. They were asked to stop the planned march. They truthfully said they hadn't begun it, they had no control over it. The idea was national, spontaneous, unorganized, and leaderless. In other words, it was a black powder keg. Any student of how integration could weaken the black man's movement was about to observe a master lesson. The White House, with the fanfare of international publicity, approved, endorsed, and welcomed a march on Washington. The big civil rights organizations right at this time had been publicly squabbling about donations. The New York Times had broken the story. The NAACP had charged that other agencies' demonstrations, highly publicized, had attracted a major part of the civil rights donations, while the NAACP got left holding the bag, supplying costly bail and legal talent for the other organization's jailed demonstrators. It was like a movie. The next scene was the Big Six, civil rights Negro leaders, meeting in New York City with the white head of a big philanthropic agency. They were told that their money wrangling in public was damaging their image, and a reported $800,000 was donated to a United Civil Rights Leadership Council that was quickly organized by the Big Six. Now, what had instantly achieved black unity? The white man's money. What string was attached to that money? Advice. Not only was there this donation, but another comparable sum was promised for some time later on after the march. Obviously, if it all went well. So this is how we see movements co-opted. This isn't Malcolm X anymore. This is me. This is how we see movements co-opted. Always follow the money. The task of people such as Al Sharpton, such as Jesse Jackson, such as the Black Lives Matter Foundation is not to promote revolutionary New African leadership and revolution. That's against their class interests. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson are very, very rich individuals, okay? A revolution is not in their interests. Sure, they will play with the word, but ultimately you have to look beyond nationality and look to class. Oprah does not want a revolution. Obama does not want a revolution. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, DeRay McKeeson, these people do not want revolutions. All of their corporate sponsorships will go away. These people live off the suffering of the new African people. So, back to Malcolm. The original angry March on Washington was now about to be entirely changed. Massive international publicity projected the Big Six as March on Washington leaders. It was news to those angry grassroots Negroes steadily adding steam to their march plans. They probably assumed that now those famous leaders were endorsing and joining them. Invited next to join the march were four famous white public figures: one Catholic, one Jewish, one Protestant, and one labor boss. The massive publicity now gently hinted that the Big Ten would supervise the March on Washington's mood and its direction. The four white figures began nodding. The word spread fast among so-called liberal Catholics, Jews, Protestants, and laborites. It was democratic to join this black march. And suddenly, the previously march-nervous whites began announcing they were going. It was as if an electrical current shot through the ranks of bourgeois Negroes, the very so-called middle class and upper class who had earlier been deploring the March on Washington talk by grassroots Negroes. But white people now were going to march. Why, some downtrodden, jobless, hungry Negroes might have gotten trampled. These integration-mad Negroes practically ran over each other trying to find out where to sign up. The angry blacks march had suddenly been made chic. Suddenly it had a Kentucky Derby image. For the status seeker, it was a status symbol. Were you there? You can hear that right today. It had become an outing, a picnic. The morning of the march, any rickety carloads of angry, dusty, sweating, small-town Negroes would have got lost among the charter jet planes, railroad cars, and air-conditioned buses. What originally was planned to be an angry riptide, one British newspaper aptly described now as the gentle flood. Talk about integrated. It was like salt and pepper. And by now, there was not a single logistics aspect uncontrolled. The marchers had been instructed to bring no signs. Signs were provided. They had been told to sing one song. We shall overcome. They had been told how to arrive, when, where to arrive, where to assemble, when to start marching, the route to march. First aid stations were strategically located, even where to faint. Yes, I was there. I observed that circus. Whoever heard of angry revolutionists all harmonizing, "We shall overcome someday," while tripping and swaying along arm in arm with the very people they were supposed to be angrily revolting against? Whoever heard of angry revolutionists swinging their bare feet together with their oppressor in lily pad park pools with gospels and guitars and I Have a Dream speeches? And the black masses in America were, and still are, having a nightmare. So, think about it. This same counterinsurgency process, when I say counterinsurgency, break the word down. You've got insurgent meaning uprising. The angry motherfuckers in the streets of Minneapolis and all these other cities, they were not concerned about saving America or reforming America. They want to tear down America. We want to destroy America and rebuild something new on its foundations. We don't want to save this unsalvageable country. There is no reform. It's too late. 500 years. We're still going through this shit. Too late. No more. Y'all missed your chance during Reconstruction. Y'all suppressed us then. We're not falling for the same trick. But there's always going to be sellouts, money-hungry motherfuckers that traffic in the people's movement, that traffic in the people's revolution. They are counterinsurgents. When we rise up, their goal is to turn the stream of the uprising off. So that's just a hiss, a whisper of what it once was. Oh, they love the aesthetics. They love the rhetoric. They love all of that. And even within the so-called communist movement, there are reformists and revisionists, those who revise the words of Marx while claiming to be Marxists, who fuck up our shit as well. In Philly, they led people into a police kettle. In Boston, you had somebody that was wearing a Mao shirt that said it is right to rebel, encouraging people to stay on the sidewalk, claiming that this is my community. If you take the streets, my people will be late for work. Yes, my people will be late to the jobs where they're exploited. The very system that I am ostensibly on the surface opposed to, we have to go and let people continue. I thought we were shutting shit down. Why don't you encourage the people to leave their vehicles and join the demonstration? See, that's why we call revisionism. That's why we call revisionism of DSA type, of PSL type. This is bourgeois energy within the communist movement. That's why we criticize, we oppose, and we counter these counterinsurgency things with our own. The utmost thing for a Maoist, for a black revolutionist, for anybody to remember is that it is right to rebel. Not just against the United States, but those who wittingly or unwittingly perpetuate the continued existence of the United States. Study your Malcolm. I'm Black Red Guard, signing off.